The fluorescent lights in Dr. Patterson's office buzzed overhead as I sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, my hands trembling slightly as I processed the words that had just shattered my world. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. The doctor's voice seemed to fade into the background as I stared at the diplomas on his wall, wondering how my life had taken such a dramatic turn at 54. "We'll need to start treatment immediately," Dr. Patterson was saying, his voice gentle but clinical. "Chemotherapy, radiation, possibly surgery depending on how you respond." I nodded mechanically, my mind racing to the person I needed to call first. Lily, my 26-year-old daughter, the light of my life, working as a graphic designer in Portland. We had our ups and downs since her mother Nora and I divorced 8 years ago, but she was still my little girl. The October rain hammered against the windows of my Honda Civic as I sat in the hospital parking lot in Seattle, my phone heavy in my hands. My fingers hovered over Lily's contact photo, a picture of her laughing at Pike Place Market from last Christmas. Taking a deep breath, I pressed call. "Dad." Her voice was cautious. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, not since our argument about her new boyfriend, Tyler. "Lily, honey, I need to tell you something important." My voice cracked despite my efforts to stay strong. "I just came from the doctor. I have pancreatic cancer." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I could hear traffic in the background on her end, the distant sound of Portland's busy streets. "I'm sorry, Dad, but I can't do this right now," she said finally, her voice strained. "Tyler and I are dealing with our own stuff, and I can't handle your drama on top of everything else." "This isn't drama, Lily. This is cancer. I'm scared, and I need my daughter. You should have thought about that before you criticized Tyler and made me choose between you two." Her voice was cold, distant. "I can't be your emotional support when you've never been there for mine." The line went dead. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Rain blurred my vision through the windshield. 3 days later, when I tried calling again to tell her about my first chemo appointment, I discovered she had blocked my number. The automated message felt like a knife to my chest. "The number you are trying to reach is not available." That evening, sitting alone in my one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill, surrounded by the takeout containers and medical pamphlets that had become my new reality, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my laptop. Pictures of Lily as a toddler, building sandcastles at Alki Beach. Her high school graduation, where both Nora and I had beamed with pride despite our recent divorce. Her college years, when she'd still call me every Sunday. Where had it all gone wrong? The answer came to me as I stared at a photo from 2 years ago, Lily's birthday dinner, where I'd shown up late because of work. Again, it was always work. The demanding job at the tech company that paid well, but consumed my soul. The weekends I'd promised to spend with her, but canceled for client meetings. The times I'd been physically present but mentally absent, checking emails during our conversations. I'd failed her long before the diagnosis, and now, when I needed her most, she was returning the favor. 2 weeks into chemotherapy, I was learning that cancer treatment was a full-time job nobody prepared you for. The nausea hit me in waves, making the Seattle drizzle seem like a gentle caress compared to the storm raging in my body. I'd lost 12 pounds, and my usually thick brown hair was starting to thin, leaving patches that made me look older than my years. I was struggling to get my jacket on in the cancer center's lobby, my hands shaking from the medication, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Tom?" "Tom Mitchell." I turned around slowly, my heart skipping a beat. There stood Nora, my ex-wife, looking exactly as beautiful as the day I'd fallen in love with her 28 years ago. Her auburn hair was shorter now, streaked with silver that only made her green eyes more striking. She was wearing a navy blue nurse's uniform I'd forgotten she'd gone back to nursing after our divorce. "Nora." My voice came out as barely a whisper. "What are you doing here?" "I work here now," she said, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she took in my appearance. "Tom, you look terrible. Are you okay?" The question almost made me laugh, but I was too tired for humor. "I'm getting chemo. Pancreatic cancer." The word still felt foreign in my mouth. Her face went pale. "Oh my God. Tom, I'm so sorry. Does Lily know?" I couldn't meet her eyes. She blocked my number. Nora's expression darkened. She what? Why would she do that? We had a fight about Tyler, her boyfriend. When I told her about the cancer, she said she couldn't handle my drama right now. The words tasted bitter as I spoke them. For a moment, we stood in the bustling lobby, surrounded by the soft conversations of other patients and families, the gentle hum of the coffee machine, and occasional announcement over the PA system. Nora studied my face with the same intensity she'd had when we were married, when she could read my moods before I even understood them myself. "How are you getting to your appointments?" she asked finally. "Uber mostly. Sometimes I drive myself if I'm feeling okay." "That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be driving after chemo." She pulled out her phone and started typing. "What's your next appointment?" "Thursday at 2, but Nora, you don't have to." "I'm picking you up at 1:30, she said firmly, the same tone she'd used when Lily was a teenager and tried to argue about curfew. "And before you object, remember that I'm a registered nurse, and I know better than you do about what you should and shouldn't be doing right now." Thursday came faster than I expected. I was sitting by my window, watching the rain create patterns on the glass, when I saw Nora's silver Toyota Camry pull up to the curb. She was early, just like she'd always been. Punctuality had been one of the things that both attracted me to her and drove me crazy during our marriage. She was always ready to go while I was still looking for my keys. "You look a little better," she said as I settled into the passenger seat. The car smelled like vanilla and coffee, comforting and familiar. "Thanks for doing this," I said, meaning it more than she could know. "You really don't have to." "Yes, I do." She pulled into traffic with the confident ease of someone who'd been navigating Seattle streets for decades. "We may not be married anymore, Tom, but we were together for 20 years. We raised a daughter together. That doesn't just disappear because we signed some papers." As we drove through the city, past the familiar landmarks of ours shared past the coffee shop where we'd had our first date, the park where we'd taught Lily to ride a bike, the restaurant where we'd celebrated anniversaries, I found myself studying Nora's profile. The years had been kind to her, adding character lines around her eyes that spoke of laughter and wisdom rather than just age. "Can I ask you something?" I said as we waited at a red light near the Space Needle. "Shoot. Why are you really doing this? We haven't spoken in 2 years." She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers drumming against the steering wheel. "Because when I saw you in that lobby, looking so lost and scared, I remembered why I fell in love with you in the first place. And because no one should have to face cancer alone, especially not someone who gave me the best 20 years of my life and the most amazing daughter in the world." The light turned green, and as we drove toward the cancer center, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. 3 months into treatment. Nora had become my lifeline in ways I never could have imagined. She drove me to every appointment, sat with me during the long chemo sessions, and somehow always knew exactly what I needed, whether it was ginger tea for nausea, a distraction in the form of terrible hospital cafeteria jokes, or just comfortable silence when the weight of everything became too much. It was during one of these quiet moments, as I sat hooked up to the Ford drip in the treatment room, that I finally found the courage to ask about Lily. "Have you talked to her?" I asked, watching the clear liquid slowly make its way through the tube and into my arm. Nora looked up from the nursing journal she'd been reading. "I tried calling her last week. She didn't answer, but she texted me back." She hesitated, clearly debating whether to share what Lily had said. "It's okay, I can handle it." She said she knows she's being selfish, but she can't watch you die. She said you were never really there for her when she was growing up, and now that you need her, it feels like you're asking her to give something she never really received. The words hit me harder than any chemo side effect. I leaned back in the recliner, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in each square, while I processed the truth in my daughter's message. "She's right," I said finally. "I was a terrible father." "You weren't terrible," Nora said softly. "You were absent. There's a difference." "Is there?" I missed her soccer games for client dinners. I was checking emails during her piano recitals. I promised her camping trips that never happened because of work emergencies that, honestly, probably weren't even real emergencies. "Nora, reached over and took my free hand. Her touch was warm and familiar, a comfort I'd forgotten I'd lost. Tom, we both made mistakes. I was so angry about the divorce that I probably said things about you to Lily that I shouldn't have. I was hurt, and I wanted her to understand why I was leaving. What did you tell her? That you cared more about your job than your family, that you chose work over us. She squeezed my hand gently. I was right, but I was also bitter. I should have helped her understand that people can change, that you weren't a bad person, just a lost one. Over the following weeks, as autumn turned to winter in Seattle, Nora and I fell into a routine that felt both foreign and familiar. She'd pick me up for appointments. We'd grab lunch afterward if I was feeling up to it. And sometimes she'd stay for dinner, simple meals of soup and crackers that were about all my stomach could handle. It was during one of these dinners, as we sat in my small apartment watching the first snow of the season fall outside my window, that she told me about her life since our divorce. I dated someone for about a year, she said, stirring her tomato soup slowly. Robert. He was a doctor at the hospital where I used to work. I felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy. What happened? He was nice, stable, everything you weren't during those last few years of our marriage. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But he wasn't you. Nora, let me finish. She set down her spoon and looked directly at me. I realized that I didn't want safe and predictable. I wanted passion and complications, and someone who made me laugh until my sides hurt. I wanted someone who would stay up all night talking about everything and nothing. I wanted the Tom I married, not the one you became in those final years. That Tom is gone, I said quietly. Cancer has a way of stripping away everything you thought was important. The job, the money, the status. None of it matters when you're sitting in a hospital bed wondering if you'll see another Christmas. Maybe that Tom isn't gone, she said. Maybe he was just buried under all that other stuff, and now he's finally able to breathe again. That night, after Nora left, I sat at my laptop and did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote, not emails or reports or client proposals, but actual writing. I wrote about Lily's first steps, about the day she'd skinned her knee at the playground, and how she'd refused to cry until she was safely in my arms. I wrote about Nora's laugh, about the way she'd hum while making breakfast on Sunday mornings, about how she'd always known exactly what to say when I was stressed about work. I wrote about the life I'd had and the life I'd thrown away, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. By February, the treatment was working. Not miraculously. This wasn't a movie where cancer simply disappeared, but the tumors had shrunk, and Dr. Patterson was cautiously optimistic about my progress. I'd gained back some weight. My hair was growing back in patches, and most importantly, I had something I'd lost long ago, perspective. I've been thinking about Lily, I told Nora as we sat in her car after my latest scan. The Seattle skyline stretched out before us, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across Elliott Bay. What about her? I want to write her a letter. A real letter, not a text or an email. Something she can hold in her hands. Nora smiled. I think that's a wonderful idea. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a blue pen, the kind of old-fashioned writing setup I hadn't used since college. The words came slowly at first, then in a flood that surprised me with its intensity. Dear Lily, I know you blocked my number, and I understand why. I know this letter might end up in the trash, and I'd understand that too. But I need to say these things, even if you never read them. I have cancer, pancreatic cancer, stage 3. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty or to manipulate you into talking to me. I'm telling you because it's taught me something important. Life is short, and the things we think matter usually don't. For 26 years, I thought being a good father meant providing for you financially. I worked 60-hour weeks so you could have dance lessons and summer camps and a college education without debt. I thought that was love. I was wrong. Love is showing up. Love is being present. Love is listening when your daughter tells you about her day instead of checking your phone. Love is all the things I failed to give you, and I'm sorry. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to take care of me or to put your life on hold because I'm sick. I'm asking for the chance to show you that I've learned what really matters, even if it took cancer to teach me. Your mother has been driving me to my appointments. She didn't have to do that. We've been divorced for 8 years, and I gave her every reason to hate me. But she shows up every single time because that's who she is. She's the kind of person who understands that love isn't something you turn off and on like a light switch. I hope you find someone who loves you the way your mother loved me, and the way I should have loved both of you. I hope you find someone who shows up. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. Not because I'm sick, but because I'm your father, and that's a job I should have taken more seriously from the beginning. I love you, Dad. I mailed the letter to her Portland apartment the next morning, with no expectation of a response. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I continued my treatment, continued my dinners with Nora, continued the slow work of rebuilding my life from the inside out. Then, on a rainy Thursday morning in March, my phone rang. Unknown number. Dad. Lily's voice was tentative, cautious, but it was there. Real. She hadn't blocked this number yet. Lily. I had to sit down. You got my letter. I got your letter. She was quiet for a moment. I've read it about 50 times. And I'm scared. I'm scared of losing you now, when I'm just starting to understand who you really are. I'm scared of getting close and having you go back to being the dad who was always too busy for me. I'm scared of watching you die. I'm scared too, I admitted, but being scared together is better than being scared alone. Tyler and I broke up, she said suddenly. Last month. You were right about him. He wasn't good for me. I'm sorry, honey. Don't be. You seeing through him probably saved me a lot of heartache down the road. She laughed, a sound I'd missed more than I'd realized. Mom told me she's been taking you to your appointments. She has. She's been incredible. That's Mom. She never could resist taking care of people, even people who didn't deserve it. I'm trying to deserve it now. Another pause. Dad, would it be okay if I came to visit? Maybe next weekend? I could drive down from Portland. I would love that more than anything in the world. Okay. And Dad, I love you too. The following Saturday, I stood at my apartment window, watching for Lily's blue Honda to turn the corner. Nora was in the kitchen, making her famous chocolate chip cookies, Lily's favorite since childhood. We'd spent the morning cleaning and preparing. Though my apartment was so small, there wasn't much to do. You're going to wear a hole in the floor, Nora said, emerging from the kitchen with flour in her hair. I can't help it. What if she changes her mind? What if this is too hard for her? Then we'll deal with it, Nora said simply. But Tom, you need to have faith. In her, in yourself, in the possibility that people can change and relationships can heal. At exactly 2 p.m., I saw the blue Honda pull up to the curb. My heart hammered in my chest as I watched Lily get out of the car. She looked older, more mature than in the photos I'd been scrolling through for months. Her dark hair was longer, and she'd lost weight, probably stressed from the breakup and work. The knock on the door came soft and hesitant. I opened it to find my daughter standing in the hallway, holding a small bouquet of daffodils. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. For a moment, we just looked at each other, taking in the changes time and pain had wrought. Then Lily stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me, and I held her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo, feeling the solid reality of her presence. I'm sorry, she whispered against my shoulder. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. You're here now, I said, my voice thick with emotion. That's all that matters. Over the next few hours, we talked. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. Lily told me about her job, about Tyler, about the ways she'd struggled with our relationship long before my diagnosis. I told her about the cancer, about the treatments, about how getting sick had forced me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew about what mattered in life. I used to think you didn't love me, she said as we sat on my small couch, sharing a plate of Nora's cookies. Not that you didn't care, but that work was always more important. Work was never more important, I said. I just didn't know how to show you that. I thought providing was the same as loving. And now I know that love is presence. It's showing up, being available, listening with your whole heart instead of half your attention. As the sun set over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Lily curled up next to me on the couch like she used to when she was little. Nora sat in the armchair across from us, her eyes bright with tears she was trying not to shed. "So what happens now?" Lily asked. "Now we take it one day at a time," I said. "I have more treatment ahead, and honestly, I don't know what the future holds. But I know I want to spend whatever time I have being the father and the man I should have been all along. And us." Lily gestured between herself and me. "Are we going to be okay?" "We're going to be better than okay," I said, meaning it. "We're going to be real." 3 months later, my latest scan showed the tumors had shrunk significantly. Dr. Patterson used words like remission and cautiously optimistic, though he was careful to explain that pancreatic cancer was unpredictable, that we'd need to monitor closely for years to come. But for the first time in almost a year, I felt something approaching hope. Lily had started calling every few days, and she'd driven down from Portland twice more for visits. We were building something new, not trying to recapture what we'd lost, but creating something better suited to who we'd both become. And Nora continued to be my anchor, the steady presence that had carried me through the darkest period of my life. We hadn't talked about what we were to each other now, or what we might become. We were taking that one day at a time, too. "Thank you," I told her as we sat in her car after my latest appointment, watching the early summer sunshine dance across the water of Puget Sound. "For what?" "For showing up, for not giving up on me, even when I'd given up on myself." She reached over and took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture that felt both familiar and new. "Tom, I learned something these past few months, too." "What's that?" "That sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to let them find their way back to who they really are, even if it takes a terrible thing like cancer to show them the way." I brought her hand to my lips and kissed it gently. "I love you, Nora. I never stopped loving you." "I know," she said softly. "I never stopped loving you either. I just stopped believing you could change. And now I think maybe we both got a second chance we didn't expect." As we drove home through the streets of Seattle, past all the landmarks of our shared history, I thought about the strange gift that cancer had given me. It had taken my health, my hair, my certainty about the future, but it had given me back my daughter, my ex-wife, and most importantly, myself. It had shown me that love isn't something you earn through achievement or success. Love is presence. Love is showing up day after day, especially when it's hard. Love is the choice to be there fully and completely for the people who matter most. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, love gives you a second chance to get it right.